I had a brilliant conversation this week with Wendy D'Andrea. She's the Chief Scientific Officer at the Trauma Research Institute. And something I took away from the conversation was that trauma healing, processing trauma, does not just consist in sitting in a room and talking about your past. And it made me laugh when she said that, because so much of my healing has been done doing precisely that, sitting in a room, talking it through, feeling it. And she's right. That's not the only place it happens. And it's good to remember that. And she talks about these three modes in which we're processing our trauma. It comes from self awareness, self regulation, and social regulation. And that made complete sense to me. In self awareness, we're learning to perhaps journal our experiences, write down what we feel in certain situations, write down our thoughts, journal out perhaps where some of our triggers exist and where they come from. All of that activity is all part of building self awareness. And it's about mindfully feeling into our sensations, feeling into our emotions, allowing the full experience that we're having to enter our consciousness and to take stock of what's happening to us moment to moment to moment. And thirdly, social regulation. How are we in groups? What are our relationships with others? How do other people's actions affect us? And what groups and social situations enable us to relax, to feel safe, to enter a healing zone? And what social groups and situations prevent us from feeling safe? And you can see how each three of these modes mutually reinforce each other. If I've got high self awareness, I'm better able to self regulate. I'm better able to integrate with groups and allow myself to experience social regulation. If I'm in a great healing group, they can help me to regulate, me to develop my own self awareness. So they're all mutually reinforcing, but it's great to think in those terms, to think about healing being community activity and individual activity. The fourth way to look at this that we didn't discuss, and I think is very important, is environmental regulation. When was the last time you walked barefoot through a forest and felt stressed? In fact, when was the last time you walked barefoot for a forest? And if you're not, get your shoes off and walk through a forest. It's fantastic. Very difficult to feel stressed if you're in woodland and you're connected. When was the last time you saw a couple having a huge argument, you know, on the side of a lake? I'm sure it happens. But when we allow ourselves to connect into nature, I think that's another factor here, and certainly been very important for my own healing. When I did a lot of my early work, it was right on the beach, Santa Monica, California, perfect place. And when I think about it, so much of my healing wasn't just done in the therapy room, bashing cushions and crying. It was done in the walks along the beach afterwards, in the group settings with other people doing treatment at the same time as me. So it was a great reminder of all of the ways in which we heal. And what was fantastic about what she was sharing in terms of her work is how she's bringing this into other group settings. So trauma informed soccer, for as she calls it, football as we would call it in the UK. Before you start a match, do you encourage the players to breathe, to sense into their bodies? Do we encourage players in sport to express themselves, to express their feelings as they're coming up whilst they're playing? And for a lot of old school coaches out there, this is not gonna fly with them. But yeah, it's great to hear that there are now voices out there thinking about this, thinking about how we can have trauma healing be a part of everyday life. I mean, imagine a world where this was happening all the times, all the time in school, in sports activities and general activities. It was a conversation of great promise, great hope. It was very inspiring. And of course, there will be a place for activity that isn't concerned with trauma healing. Yeah, that would be ridiculous to go too far in that direction. There's definitely a time to zip up and get on with the task in hand. Yeah, life isn't simply about healing, that would be a pretty flat life. But it's a huge part of, from my perspective, it's a huge part. Our ability to lead rich, wonderful lives is our ability to find spaces in which we can heal. So it's a fantastic conversation. It inspired me. I hope it inspires you. Check it out in the description below.